Well, welcome everyone. Hope everybody is doing well. We are coming to you from an 80-degree day here in Winston-Salem. So hopefully your students have been able to enjoy that time outside amidst some other time, which I'm sure has been spent on their job search, which is why we are here today. So for those I haven't met, I'm Corey Pegram. I'm a 2013 Wake grad, and I now help lead our Office of Family Engagement here on campus. And I literally remember, but I guess it was 13 years ago now, applying to jobs this time of the year while sitting on the quad. So I remember how exciting it was, but also how stressful it was and time consuming it was. So we as a team are really excited for your students now, but also know they are in the middle of this process and are probably looking for as much support as they can get, which is why we are really, really excited to be joined by our leadership team from the Office of Personal and Career Development, which, as many of you probably know, that as the OPCD. And this team, they literally wake up every day thinking about how they can support your students in their job searches. So Andy Chan is our vice president for the Office of Personal and Career Development. Many of you have probably met Andy along the way, and he's been at Wake for 17 years now. After we were fortunate enough to recruit him over across the country from Stanford, and he, along with his incredible colleague Heidi Robinson, who's also with us tonight, who many of your students probably know as well. They have totally transformed the OPCD into really one of the nation's best career offices over the last decade. So we're really excited to have them here with us tonight, so they can talk to you guys about what they're seeing in the market, and how your students can use their team in the coming weeks and months to support them in their search. So I'm going to pass it over to Andy.
Thanks very much, Corey, and welcome everyone out there. We're really glad to be with you this evening, and we have a lot to share with you. I'm sure that most of you here on the call are wondering how to help your student if they're in a process of trying to figure out what's going to happen after Wake Forest, and just hopefully we can give you a bunch of advice and guidance on how you can think about what they're going through, and as well just how you can be just a great parent in this process as we head close to graduation. So tonight, we'll address most of the common questions that people have when you have a student who's a senior, and I'll talk a little bit about just the general state of how recruiting works in the job market here in spring of 2026. And then I'll have Dr. Heidi Robinson, my colleague, and one of the top leaders on my team who teaches our college career courses and then also manages all of our uh, career coaches who work with everyone out in the marketplace, excuse me, with all of our students, and as well keeping a beat on the marketplace to share the student experiences and how we support them. She'll also have a few of our recent alumni to share their experiences and how things have worked out for them. And along the way, we'll try to answer your questions. So if you have any questions during the webinar, just add them into the Q&A link. It's at the bottom of your Zoom screen. We'll do our best to try to answer them throughout the discussion, either in our conversation or through some of our teammates who will be answering them in the background. So let's begin, and I'll start talking a little bit about the current job and recruiting market. So I'll start with what we like to talk to students about is that, oftentimes we'll ask them, how's it going? And they'll say, it's not going well. It seems really rough out there. And it makes sense. They're either applying to things and not hearing anything back, or they're doing something like reading the newspaper and getting lots of information from the news that's making them really discouraged. I think probably thirdly is that they'll see some of their friends actually have jobs already, and because they don't have something, they're also discouraged by that. But what I want to say first and foremost is that although the job market can feel uncertain and very confusing because of the challenges of what's going on in the overall economy, and especially by what the media is saying, the market's actually stronger than students perceive it to be. So that is one of the key things that we try to tell students is finding a job is it's sort of like a race. And if you actually don't keep yourself in the race, you won't actually finish. And so when students start getting discouraged and say, well, I just am going to give up and maybe I have to start looking again in the summer, we try to tell them there are actually as many opportunities now this year as there were last year, and there are many of them. And that actually a Wake Forest student is so competitive and so able to compete relative to other students that the Wake Forest student should be able to win. So getting out of the game is not the answer. We have to find ways to keep our students motivated. A lot of it is actually that one piece of motivation. The second piece is actually making sure they're targeting the right kinds of things that make sense given their backgrounds. They also make sure that the way they're presenting themselves, both on paper, in social, and sort of professional media, as well as how they're interviewing and how they're networking, all play a role. And we have so many students who actually come to us and say, I've been doing all these things. And then what we come to find is that they've actually been pointing in the wrong direction at job categories or where they couldn't get the job given their background. And then also um, their materials or the way they're pitching themselves are actually off by 50%. So when they're that off, they're spending a lot of time, as they say, what is like if you don't practice well, you're not going to get better. You can do a lot of practice, but if you're not practicing well, you're not going to get in the right direction. So I just sort of put that out there. A couple of things that I want to say is that what you'll hear is that the news that you hear about the market seems very discouraging. But you have to remember, bad news is what grabs eyeballs and clicks. And clicks is what drives revenue. So everyone's trying to actually play up all the very bad news. And so what happens is that that's sort of what can happen. And when we actually look at both the data and our students are having success, as well as actually our conversations with employers, it's not as bad as it seems. The news does create anxiety and weariness and concern. And we have to find ways to help students to say, there are places where there are challenges, but if we, again, can help you, we can help you point you in the right direction where there won't be as many challenges. The second thing is that I said earlier is that a lot of students think because their friends have secure jobs, they missed out. Either they wish they had gone to the business school or they wish they went to med school or they should just go to law school, that kind of thing. And that in a way, like I just sort of messed up. And the reality is that they haven't messed up. They've done exactly what they need to do. Our students really perform well through both the recruiting process, but also out in the marketplace. So what I would say here is just to be aware, like even at graduation, we try to get as much information from students about who has jobs. And depending on the year, anywhere from half to two-thirds of the class actually is either employed or going to grad school. There's still somewhere between a third to as much as a half the class still trying to figure it out. And by the time we get to 6 months after graduation, that window shuts down to basically 2 to 3% of the class doesn't have anything when we get to November after graduation. So I just put that out there. The next thing that I want to share with you is just about how recruiting works today. So the hard part with recruiting, it's very opaque, it's very fragmented, it's very unresponsive. So where it's opaque, what happens is that students are hoping like, oh, all these companies will come to campus and I can just get a job at one of them. That sort of happens along the way, but actually relative to the overall population of all companies we recruit, it's a very small percentage. So we actually have to help students apply to jobs outside of the ones who come to campus, but also it differs by industry sector too. So there's some industries where it's very organized, like consulting or accounting or banking. But there are a lot of other sectors like marketing, education, even a lot of Fortune 500 companies where it's not very organized at all. And because of that, it's a lot more just in time. And so when it's just in time, when the job gets posted, it's really important to apply for that job right away, not wait and think about it, because oftentimes those companies are actually pulling down those jobs, even while or actually they're closing the job, even the job sounds like it's still open for a later deadline. So this whole idea of just in time is really important where students, if they see something they like, they actually have to apply. The other thing about it is that because technology seems to have made it easier for people to apply to jobs, students will say, I applied to 100 jobs, I'm not getting any response. And what we have to recognize is that most of the companies are using AI to screen through these thousands of resumes to find just a few candidates. And if you're not just like the exact perfect person, they're not going to pick you. But the way to get around that is you have to be able to network. And we can help students learn how to network so that you can actually get someone to help you get that door open. So I would say that's another thing. That's another thing about the process that can feel frustrating. And one that we try to tell students oftentimes, like, are you spending a lot of time applying online and how much are you doing networking? And if it's not more like 60% of the time networking and 40% applying online, maybe even 75-25 networking to online, the students got to find a way to actually move into that direction. And so that's something we can definitely help them with. Um, Finally, the last thing is, companies are actually navigating uncertainty in this economy, so they're hiring more deliberately. It doesn't mean they're actually not going to hire. It just means that they're thinking more deliberately about, do I need this person right now? Can I wait till later? Companies do not hire based on when students graduate. So because of that, what happens is that they're just hiring whenever they actually need someone. And that's why we actually have so many students who end up getting jobs during the summer, even the fall after graduation. The point there being, though, is that the more the students are networking now, they may not actually get the job exactly by graduation, but they will be able to get that job because they've networked and have someone who might be in those companies to say a good word when the job comes open later in the year. So that's another thing that is also a challenging thing about this process. Um, as I said before, right now, the good news is we have over 300,000 opportunities that have been posted in Handshake throughout this year. And right now, it's higher at this time this year than it was last year in terms of total number. 47,000 are posted and active. That's 38,000 real jobs and 9,000 internships. So there's quite a bit of opportunity. And sometimes we just have to have students open their aperture just a little bit to be open to applying to things that they might not otherwise do. The other thing that, as you might know, people are thinking about, well, maybe I go to a grad program. And we would definitely love to talk to students about the pros and cons of grad programs. The keys are they have faculty who can definitely help them in their area of study, but obviously really thinking through, is it better for me to get some work experience before I go back to grad school? So I really use grad school to the best direction in terms of like I know why I'm going and what I'm going to do afterwards. I think that's a really important thing. It can be really tricky to go to grad school thinking, well, then I'll just figure out like what I want to do, because sometimes you might actually start studying things that you realize later, I didn't really want to do this. And that ends up being a waste of a year or two of extra school, which you should be careful about. Um, One thing I said before is why employers love Wake Forest students. And not only are they smart and hardworking, but they have incredible communication skills. They're really relationship oriented. And today, in a world where fewer and fewer students are that way, our students really stand out. I probably forgot the one big elephant in the room was about this whole thing around AI. Like everyone's talking about entry level jobs, like going away. There's no jobs for coming out of college. That's not true. It's actually, I think it's a little bit of a trope that the media and these people who run these AI companies are actually saying as a way to say like look at us, like use AI. Is it a challenge? Yes, it's a challenge. What's the challenge? The challenge is students actually have to be able to answer the question. So if you were to use AI in my company, tell me an example of how you might use it to actually add value in the job that you would have. That's not an easy question to answer. But if you come and talk to one of our coaches, we can actually walk you through how you get ready for that type of answer. And we actually have resources that Heidi might even refer to later that students can use to get up to speed on how to think about AI in a both an ethical way, but also a productive way without it being like I use AI all the time. But at least I know how to talk about it in a professional way. That's an important thing. What we are seeing is that companies would like students, actually, they're hiring students who actually can say, I know how to use AI well enough to be able to use it on my job on the job, no matter what that job might be, and I can bring it to help your company. And so that's something we want to keep students to be thinking about without thinking, I'm not going to have a job. There are jobs. I can't say that enough. Like jobs, at least at this moment, they're not going away more because of AI. They're going away because the economy is uncertain and people are trying to figure out who to hire and what the future is based on what's going on with the economy, as opposed to it's all about AI. There might be certain sectors that some of you work in where you're seeing some changes, but it's very different by different sectors. And so that's why all these conversations we have with students is very dependent on what their interests might be. Um, so I'll wrap with a final couple thoughts. As you can tell, finding a job is never easy, even in a great market. And that it just requires to sort of stay steady, stay persistent, and just really treat it like I'm going to train to run a marathon that I've never run before. And it's just going to take a little time. If you come work with our coaches, we can accelerate the training period because you're working with someone who knows the game, who can see and help them personally. And so finding any way possible to get them to come to our office, come to our workshops, use Handshake so that you actually are completing that profile and letting that system work for you. No matter what they might have experienced with Handshake before, it is more powerful than you might think because they're adding AI into that system all the time. Um, the last thing I would say is just making sure that um, help your child to continue to just say, don't give up. Like, go talk to someone at that career office to help you sort of tune your plan, tune your processes, try to help you to be able to keep moving forward, and we'll be able to help you make that happen. I can tell my video is frozen, but I hope you can still hear me. I'm going to ask Heidi to come on board and say hello, and we'll see if we can get into the Q&A while I unfreeze over here. Thanks, Heidi. Come on over.
Absolutely. Good evening, everyone. there is nothing that is more important to us than talking about supporting your students. This class of 2026 is a class that we have deep affection for, and we're excited about the things that they're doing, and we take it very seriously that you've sent them to us.
Um, Heidi, it's great to see you, and I'm sorry I keep freezing, but hopefully if I ever freeze too much, you just take right over, okay?
Sounds good.
Okay, so there's a bunch of common questions that students right now who are seniors might be just sort of saying, and the things we actually hear parents say to us about their student. And so I'd love for you to talk about some of these. So the first one is, I can't find a job that I'm interested in. Like, there's really nothing out there for me. I was wondering, like, how do you talk to students about that to help them see that there actually are things and we can help them find them?
Absolutely. I, in fact, had this conversation with a senior probably 4 weeks ago. And she said, I'm a bio major, that I don't want to go into medicine, but now there's nothing else. She started coming to events after we set up her Handshake profile. So we went on Handshake. She filled out her career interests, updated them. She had not updated her interests in probably 2 years, certainly since her sophomore year. We updated those, events started populating, and she landed in a consulting role in the spring, which people told her was impossible. So, are there jobs out there? Absolutely, they are. And what we need to do is use the tools to go ahead and do searches, but also to set up searches so students have support. Our recruiting platform, Handshake, is a fantastic tool to be able to funnel the kinds of jobs a student is interested in directly to them. And checking that Handshake profile consistently, making sure that a student has told the system what it is that they want. Once those career interests are updated, the algorithm does the work for the student and starts sending those things directly to the student and alerts recruiters that a student may have interest in a particular industry, and recruiters send real messages to our students saying, "Hey, have you seen that we've got this posting and or we have this event? We'd like you to be in it." What does that mean? It means a student has filled out and completed, updated their Handshake profile, and that recruiters can find them based on that information. So that would be my first thing to say. And if students have not yet had success with Handshake, we find that that means they might just need a little glow up, as the kids would say, on their Handshake skills. And that's what we're there for. They can come in and make an appointment, or they can drop in. We have drop in appointments Monday through Friday. So Handshake and Handshake updates would be my first stop. Second would be LinkedIn. And LinkedIn is a wonderful place for students not only to find our connections, but it's also a place for them to get some ideas about where students in their major have gone. What are some of the things in my interest areas or the cities that I am particularly called to? What are alumni doing there and which companies are they working for? And how can I get some information that way? And then finally, our office, Andy, we have this policy that we all celebrate of being very transparent with our data. And so if a student is, for example, a comm major, and they want to know where did the comm majors from last year land, I can use that for some of my inspiration. Those are available on our website under Explore Majors. And there's a link right there that says outcomes. And those are open to you, our parents, but also to your students to go ahead and begin sorting that data and seeing what it is that calls to them, and then coming in to see us so we can help them get there.
Great. Here's another thing I oftentimes hear a student will say something like, I didn't get a job for my junior internship,
Mm.
and so who's going to want to hire me? Or they say something like, I didn't even do a junior internship at any place that really mattered, so like who would want to hire me? You know, there's sort of a little bit of a just sort of just an imposter syndrome of like I'm not qualified, or which also goes with the um, I'm competing against all these people who have all this experience. Like, how am I going to compete with them when I don't have experience? So there's a couple different things I embedded in there, but maybe you can speak to those issues about like the internship and not getting offers, as well as just feeling like I don't have enough experience relative to like all the people I'm competing against.
Mm. There's enough ambiguity for any one person, particularly a senior, to manage in this process without feeling defeated as they start. And I would say one of the most important things that we want to remind students, particularly seniors, is that all of their experience counts, whether that has been in the research they've done. Particularly, we want to remind them that their academic projects, their academic work, counts as skill building, and that's what employers want. Employers want skills. And that even, most employers would say that they see that as even more important than GPA at this point in this economy. They want to know, and the skills students are using in their courses count as professional skills, and we can help them tell that story. So I would say that's one. For the student who feels like they do not yet have experience that they believe matters, I would point them to two different resources. The first is called Forage. And Forage is a fantastic website and it is free to our students. And students can do job simulations that are A, important in skill building, B, they are for companies that are brand names, notoriously hard to get into. And what students can do is complete a 1 to 2 hour, possibly 4 hour max job simulation that puts them directly into the talent pipeline for that company. I had a student this week in class yesterday who told me that she had done a project on Forage, then applied to that company later, and they mentioned the project she had done on Forage, the job simulation, when she landed her internship from last summer. So I would say the Forage is fantastic. The other place to gain skills is another site called Parker Dewey. And Parker Dewey in particular is interesting because those are also professional experiences, project based, short term, paid. And students can go ahead and add those as, again, professional experience that helps them go ahead, apply skills, and have a story to talk about. Finally, I would say LinkedIn Learning. Students have access. Wake Forest is paying for LinkedIn Learning. It's a huge advantage for our students that we're not always, they may not always see that that's available to them. Once a student completes, for example, an AI prompt engineering certification on LinkedIn Learning, again, free to a Wake Forester, that certification appears on their LinkedIn. So not only can they talk about having gained those skills, taken something, gotten some kind of education outside of even a course, but they also have a demonstrated project to be able to talk about, and it becomes part of their personal branding. So many, many ways to gain experience. It's not too late ever.
That's great. And I think I was thinking about one thing I've seen you do incredibly well is how you can help a student see their full experience at Wake Forest, whether it be in the classroom or doing a work study or whether you're leading a club or in a club, how to actually then restate that in a way which is very professional, very impressive. So I was thinking if Patrick could just put a link to that, our resume site, because we have so many templates of examples of students who no matter what they majored in, they were able to actually really make it super professional. And these are good examples of what the students sometimes either haven't heard that or have seen it, or maybe they haven't come to our office. And so it's just a good example or template of what that might look like. The last question I have for you is, we've had some students who, they might have heard about the OPCD all the way back at orientation and they thought about coming by and for some reason they didn't, or maybe they did. And at the time they weren't really sure what they were doing. And when they left, they maybe thought, well, I guess I got what I needed. I'm not really sure. I've really never gone back. So we always hear from parents who are like, "How do I get my child to come to your office?" Like they say that they didn't get what they wanted. Like, how do we tell parents, here's the kind of things we can do, easy ways to enter in, try it out again. Students are in a different place than they were before.
So I think the first part, Andy, that I would want to tackle is that we have so many coaches that all have a different style, may have a different approach, that may have even a specialty in a particular area. I think of one of our coaches for her, marketing is kind of her area, another who is interested in helping students with the arts and different sorts of media. A student can pick any one of our coaches. And I wouldn't imagine that all students would pick the same coach. It's why we have so many. So they need to find one that is a fit for them. If someone came their sophomore year, their needs were wholly different. Their interests may not yet have been clarified. And to come in as a senior with an open mind, and it never hurts our feelings if someone has an appointment with me, but then perhaps they wind up with another one of our coaches and I get to say hello in the hall and get a catch up. Find the coach that fits your style. That's what we want for each of our students. And I would say for students who may be a little reluctant to walk in, sometimes it has to do with finding an appointment that works in their schedule. Our students are so busy. Your seniors are going many different directions. Start with a drop in. It is very low stakes. And just to come in or to open office hours. I held office hours this afternoon in the innovation station, our big classroom. Students can drop in and get some support and sort of get if you will, a little diagnostic on what might be helpful next.
One other thing that you secured for us this past year was the photo booth too. That's another easy way for a student to say, "Hey, I need a better professional photo." Can you talk about that briefly?
Oh, I would love to talk about that. As I was getting ready to hop on for the webinar, we had two students who were walking in, one in shorts with his blue blazer on a hanger, and another who was already in and using the photo booth. That photo booth provides a beautiful professional photo. It coaches students through it. And Andy, I'm not going to kid you. Some of the AI software in it makes me happy. It'll whiten my teeth if I take my photo or go ahead and give me a little, I'll use that word glow up again. But our students don't need the glow up. Our students benefit from getting a fantastic professional photo, and they can come in Monday through Friday, 8:30 to 5. And we even do special kind of events. If a group wanted to come in and do all of their LinkedIn photos, professional photos all at once, we've done that too. So students should reach out and we'd be happy to accommodate after hours groups as well. But these photos are fantastic and really make a difference in the polish that our students are able to bring to their LinkedIn.
Thanks for taking a moment on that. I also brought it up because after our last webinar, a parent actually emailed me and said, "Can I get my photo taken for my LinkedIn profile?" And so when they came to our Parents
Absolutely.
Weekend, that's what they did. That's actually pretty funny. All right. Well, thank you for answering questions, which I think key ones that create barriers for students, and hopefully parents can help their student get them encouraged to come by and give us another shot and help us, especially at this most important time. I'm going to pass it over to you so you can talk to our alumni about their experiences, and then I'll come back to you in a little bit to have some final Q&A.
Fantastic. Andy, thank you. And thank you to our wonderful panelists. Believe it or not, both of them are named Lily. We are so lucky. We have Lily squared, two of our young alums. And I am just so delighted to have both of you with us. One of the things that I think about when we are speaking to our young alumni is they have such a clear recollection of what it felt like just a few short 12 months ago, as they were sitting in the many of the same places and spaces that our current seniors are sitting in. And we were also going to be joined by one of our seniors, and Lily, I think I shared with you that he got a big interview in New York and got stuck in TSA and will not be joining us. And I'm so happy that the two of you are because your stories are so compelling to us, given the way we have senior success unfold. So first, I'd love to ask you, if you will, to introduce yourselves and give us name, current location, and the job in which you find yourself and your major.
Amazing. Well, thank you for the introduction, Heidi. I'm happy to be joining everyone here today. My name's Lily. I'm from the Eastern Shore of Maryland, graduated from Wake last year, and I'm now in New York City working full-time as a social media and influencer coordinator for Sneaks, which was a stiletto sneaker high-heeled brand founded by Sarah Blakely, who's the founder of Spanx. So I had the incredible privilege to be an intern over the summer in Atlanta and work directly under her. and then I was hired full time, and now I'm in New York City.
Oh, Lily, thank you. That's a great part of, hold on to that part of your story. I'm excited for both of you
We'll
to
get
get to
into
share. Oh,
it.
I love it. I want to get into it. We want to. And Lily A.
Yes. Hi everyone. My name is Lily as well. I am from outside of Philadelphia, a small town, Gwinnett Valley. I had a different process from the very beginning at Wake. I went through the recruiting process in high school and I played field hockey at Wake. I was a BEM major, business and enterprise management in the business school. I graduated with no job. Doing any internship was really tough because we had to do summer school training all summer. We got back, I think, July 5th every summer. So, that was definitely difficult, and I was feeling really, really behind senior spring, especially because we compete in the fall. But long story short, I ended up applying to every job imaginable all June and all July, and then got a summer job in July, and I was like a private events coordinator almost. And it ended up being a JP Morgan private event that I had to work solo. And I really just networked as much as I could in that entire event. And I followed up with the people that I met all throughout the fall, the rest of the summer. And it ended it like I got a super day. And then I'll be starting in July as a JP Morgan private bank analyst. So. Yeah, we'll see. I haven't started yet, but
I love that both of you have stories in which your perseverance really made a difference. And I remember both of your stories are important because of the attitude that you took toward it. And I want to know what it was like, what the feelings were like at this time last year.
Sure. So this time last year, I was very stressed. I had been applying to a bunch of different jobs. I failed to mention that I was a communications major at Wake. So I was mostly looking in the marketing space, which was at the time, there wasn't a lot on LinkedIn. So I was feeling really discouraged, really stressed. And I remember I came running to the OPCD and I was like, Heidi, I need to sit down with you. You need to help me. I'm panicking. All my friends have jobs at Wells Fargo and JP Morgan and doing all this banking stuff, and I feel like I'm so behind. I don't even know how to get my resume seen. I feel like I'm applying and hearing nothing. So I was really stressed and panicked, but luckily, when I came to see Heidi and we sat down and really started diving into my skills and building an overall picture, I felt a lot more confident, even just like walking out of the OPCD. I felt like I had tangible next steps that I could do. So this time last year, I definitely was very stressed. But I quickly learned that the career path isn't linear. It's changing, it's evolving, and not everyone's path is the same. So yeah.
And I especially appreciate that for both of you because you were willing to take a risk. And I remember this for you, Lily Ward, but Lily, I'm going to bounce over to you as well and ask, were there skills that were embedded in your Wake Forest experience that you may not have been able to be clear about, so to speak? Like,
yeah.
did someone need to remind you that you had more skills than you had maybe given yourself credit for on your resume?
Yes, definitely. I think going to Wake Forest, either as an athlete or as a non-athlete, you are surrounded by very similar people, and we are all very high achievers, and that's kind of what got us to Wake. Especially being an athlete, I feel like we were kind of in a bubble where that all of the skills that we all kind of shared were all similar. So everybody pretty much had them. That's how we got to Wake to play any sport. Um, Definitely, to answer your question, I did need a reminder, and I more needed help articulating exactly what it was that I could bring to the table. Um, I feel like everybody is humble in a way, and being able to kind of share, what we had to do was uncomfortable for me because we never really talked about it. We just did it. Um, so yes, and I think it took a lot of practice. And I was like petrified. I mean, I had a team my entire life, even before Wake. Um, Going through high school and elementary school, I was always an athlete. So seeing the team that I was now not really on anymore, still practicing and being together, and you're kind of just on your own. And the support
Yes.
system is there as an athlete, but not really after you're done performing. So it was all really new to me. I went to the OPC. This is embarrassing, but I've been one time, and it was my senior spring, and it wasn't because I didn't really want to. It was just because I didn't have the time. Um, so I felt like I was playing catch up, but I think I wish I did a little bit less quantity and focused more on the quality. I was focused on applying to every single thing that I could. And that really was not that helpful. I think I love when people say network, 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 because it's true. That's how I got the position that I have now. Um, but it's really, I think, when you least expect it. Um, just constantly keep your eye open to if you see somebody in the grocery store and they're at your dream, they're wearing something that it's your dream firm, like have the courage to just go up and talk to them because that is going to go a much further way than just doing it at a fair where everything is expected.
Lily, what you just described and what you said about you took this event coordinator role. It was a JP Morgan event. You got as many business cards as you could, and that's how you are going to start your second job. You
Yeah.
took a risk. And
Yeah.
Lily Ward, you took one too. Some people would say, wait, you started as an intern? I wonder if you will speak to that because both of you have landed at these places that are really remarkable, and you both got there in a unique way.
Absolutely. Yeah, so after graduation, I started as an intern in June. But we'll go back a little bit before graduation. But in the spring, when I was applying to jobs, I thought I needed a full-time position because that's what everyone else had around me. And I remember meeting with Heidi and I was like, I don't know if I should take this. I don't know if this is a good opportunity for me. And she, reminded me that not everyone's paths were the same and that this is an incredible opportunity. So I ended up accepting my internship offer and then just kind of jumped in headfirst. And after graduation, I ended up falling in love with what I was doing. I had a lot of um, responsibility at my as an intern. Sneaks was and still is a very much a startup. I worked on a small team. I worked alongside Sarah, so I learned quickly. I wore many different hats as an intern, and they quickly realized that they needed someone like me for a full-time position, and they were building out a marketing team in New York City, which is my dream city to live in and has always been. And after a week after my internship had ended, I had no idea if they would even consider keeping me full time or even offering me a position. They called me up and they were like, "Hey, we'd love to send you to New York City and build out our marketing team. You were a great intern, brought a lot of fresh ideas to the table, and that's where I am now." So it was definitely a process that was different than a lot of my friends at the time. A lot of people either, had their full-time jobs figured out or were still looking in the spring. So taking an internship was definitely a risk, but I'm so glad that I did it. And even if I didn't end up with a full-time offer, it still would have provided me with a great skill set and a great experience to speak on if I had decided to look for other jobs after.
And I think that's one of the opportunities, especially when you want to get into a name brand company. Sometimes that post-grad internship can be not only a good foot in the door, but also once those other interns go back, all of a sudden they realize, gosh, I need to keep the talent I have right here. So I love that part of the story and that you proved yourself. It was essentially a long interview.
Yeah.
I was thinking about how you both have navigated a lot. You had navigated the ambiguity of this process. And I'm wondering, Lily, if you'll speak to how your folks, what were some of the things that your parents did that were helpful for you?
Yeah. I think I have a lot to thank my parents for. I mean, especially, putting us like in the position to go to Wake Forest. They were great throughout the process because they didn't add an extra element of stress for me at all or any pressure. I think Wake Forest, I love the school with my whole heart. I do think that it is sometimes a really censored environment where We are, like I said before, all very high achieving. I think that it was a blessing and a curse. It pushes you to be your best, but it is also something that is really stressful, and especially these times. I think they were like, especially as an athlete, they were in the spring, they were like, enjoy it. Enjoy your last semester there. You're never going to get this time back. And that's the truth. You will never be a senior in college ever again. And spending time just tucked away in a room, applying to jobs and stressing yourself out the entire time is not something that will be helpful. I think they told me to like surround myself with people who were also in kind of a bit of a similar situation. Like I remember talking to Lily senior spring and being like, "What are you going to do?" "I don't know yet. What are you going to do?" And that gave a little bit of a sense of comfort. Because when you're just constantly around people who have return offers or have that internship, and it is just added stress. So I think my parents had a great mindset. The best advice that I could tell anybody is to not spend so much time on LinkedIn. Heidi and I were talking about this. I think LinkedIn is a great tool. I think it is awesome to network with people. You can go down the rabbit hole and find people and speak with them and learn so much. But if you're scrolling it like you scroll Instagram, it is like the evil of comparison.
Mm.
Um, you're constantly seeing people from different schools, different industries, and you're always seeing what outcomes that they have. It's like a highlight reel, just like Instagram is, but
Mm.
there's not enough context in how they got those jobs. I announced my JP Morgan position, but I didn't announce how the entire story of how I worked as, a coordinator at this club and, the Saturday night, and there's no context. Um, so I think that is really good advice for any senior in this position. But to the parents, they have enough stress on their own. They really do. Um, Wake Forest is a great place and it pushes people to be their best, but the students intrinsically have that own stress and they're trying to do it on their own. So just giving them the grace to figure it out, and enjoy the time in college, I think is the biggest thing.
Yes, knowing that all the things they're doing are leading them to this next step and believing in that your student is doing all of those things.
Yes. Yes.
Lily Ward, what would you say advice to senior parents and or advice for seniors who are still looking?
Yes. I think similar to Lily, like give them that, I really appreciated what she just said. I totally felt that as well. Um, I think giving them that grace and also, there still should be a push, support in a supportive way, but also knowing that, they're going to figure it out on their own. Everyone has a different path, and my parents were very supportive in that sense. I have a twin brother, so oftentimes there's a lot of comparison there. And we have very different paths. He's a very analytical, math-oriented person, and I'm a very, creative person, always was more drawn to the artistic side of things. And when it came to the job search, I remember my parents were very supportive in different ways for the two of us because we had completely different paths. And they also knew that no matter what, we would figure it out in our own way. He ended up going down the graduate school path, and I ended up doing the internship into full-time pipeline. So I think, obviously, emphasizing the importance to start the career search and learn how to market yourself and take those networking steps are definitely important, but also giving your students the grace and also just understanding that not everything is the same for everyone.
Lily and Lily, we could not have asked for a better team to come on in and explain what it felt like to be a senior and how you both, in different ways, have found a lot of success, which we celebrate alongside you. We're grateful. Thank you both for being with us.
Of course. Thank you for having us.
You're amazing. Thank you.
Lily and Lily, thank you very much. You were awesome. What great stories and what great advice.
Mm.
Oh, let's see if this can work. Sorry about my frozen background, but now you can see where I am. All right. Well, thank you very much. I just really, really appreciate it. And we wish you all the best and always know that we're here for you if you ever need anything, have any transitions or challenges. We got a whole team here ready to help you out. And of course, Heidi, right there.
Appreciate them both.
Yeah, thank you. All
Thank
right.
you.
Well, we've just a few more minutes to wrap up with a couple other questions. And so, Heidi, I wanted to, we usually get common questions from parents, and maybe you and I can talk about a few of them. So, one of them is about this idea of a gap year. It was brought up in the Q&A chat, and Patrick answered it. But maybe we can talk a little bit more about it. If a student's considering trying to do a gap year, how can we help them plan for that? And then also after they come back and need some more assistance, are we able to help them?
Oh my goodness, what a great question. And the answer, of course, is absolutely. In fact, one of our current seniors headed toward med school came in to say that she has found a job in research out right here in Charlotte, just down the way from us. And so, are those gap years attainable, available, and are we ready to help them? The answer is a wholehearted yes. So I am also, like you, Andy, a fan of a gap year before grad school or professional school, just to sort of um, be clear about what it is that you want to do in grad school. And what I would add about the gap year is I think one of the real benefits of being with one of our coaches is that we want to think, what is the end goal? What is the story that we want to be able to tell at the end of that gap year that makes us a better candidate for graduate school or professional school? And so I would say meeting with the coaches, landing that gap year is very much landing a job. And so we want to help students think through that clearly and make sure that they have tailored their resume and their LinkedIn profile to put themselves in the best position for success.
That's great. One of the things I also think about is, as I think Lily described about the idea that she had a job that both of them in a way that was like intern to maybe becoming a full time, but not even sure if it would be here or somewhere else. And I do think one of the things sometimes we get caught up with this notion of the word internship. And so when we say that, something to express a formality about the work arrangement. And can you talk to students a little bit about how we talk about it with students so that the students in their heads don't think, I'm looking for an internship, I'm looking for, postgraduate internship. Do you have one? Like, what are the words we use so that parents aren't all of a sudden thinking, oh, well, I got to talk to my students about a postgraduate internship?
Yes, no, well, I love that we are surfacing that. And while Lily and both Lilies had really interesting postgraduate stories, I would say the vast majority of our students are pursuing that full-time opportunity, and they were also and took different paths to get to those full-time roles. What we are really wanting students to do is to not get locked into this idea that they have to land the perfect job as their first job. And so what I heard in both of the stories that we heard from our young alumni is that they positioned themselves with their first stop to go ahead and pivot into positions so that second stop was a little bit closer to that dream job, perhaps. So yes, I think that's answering your question, which is what we are encouraging students to do is to be strategic. Take that first job that gets you closer to some of the things that may be your end game and learn everything you can, get paid to learn during that first job, and then use that, leverage that for your second job or your second opportunity.
That's good. It reminds me of the parent who gave us this acronym ABC. He said A job, better job, career job. So, some students actually they might have had an internship which was a job that actually was a good sort of directionally, this is where I want to go. Sometimes people do these summer internship or part-time jobs where they realize this wasn't it. So that may not be the first like step, but a job, not any job, a job or a decent job, and then a better job, back to being strategic. What did I learn from this one that got me the next one? And then, okay, I really like this. That can get me to like quote unquote the career. So it just lowers the expectation that this first job has to be like the best
That's
ever or else I
that's
failed.
right.
Because I do think that's a high bar.
Yeah, what I tell students, I feel like I say this multiple times a day. I want you to get a job where you get great experience, where you are building skills that are going to continue to become career momentum for all the things that are to come. For our students who are graduating in 2026 and 2027, there are opportunities coming for them that we don't have a job title for. And that's exciting. How do we get to that point? We need them to have good experience and build those skills because that's the foundation.
Yeah. So another question is, we have some international students who might be graduating and they're want to work in the United States. What's the general guidance we give to those students, and how can we help them?
We actually purchased a really fantastic piece of software that is called Going Global. And it really works on two levels in the sense that students can use it if they do want to work internationally, and international students can use it to see which companies are hiring who have opportunities for students who are international. And so it's a fantastic way to go ahead and develop a list of targets, companies that would be interesting to go ahead and really direct their search and their finite resources, their time and their energy toward the places that are actually going to go ahead and have opportunities that meet exactly what they need. We also work closely with ISS, which is our International Student Support Services, and they have been fantastic partners in going ahead and helping us explain and support students with any nuances that there might be in terms of their best practices to land here in the United States.
Great. Um, so this year's been an interesting year. I think in the beginning, when the new administration came in, like a lot of change was happening in DC, and it seemed like a place where there wouldn't be opportunity, but it feels like that sort of shifted a bit. So, we have a lot of Wake Forest students who like to go to DC. Can you give a little bit of an overview as to what's happening there and how do we help students think about DC with respect to like trying to find a job?
DC is such an interesting place, and as we talk about the Wake network, I'm not sure that there is a place. Well, every place definitely needs a network, but DC is a place that runs on relationships. And so we are fortunate at Wake Forest that we have Jennifer Richwine and Wake Washington, which are tremendous. Jennifer and Wake Washington are tremendous hubs of connection across DC. The other part for our Wake Forest students who are interested, particularly on the Hill, um, all of those are just in time hires. And often people land those word of mouth. So for our students who are interested in being on the Hill, this is the time to lean heavily into our network. Wake loves Wake. And so there's really no one who will fight harder for one of our students or young grads than somebody who actually has really and truly understood the value of what a Wake Forest graduate brings. So I would say that there's actually, for students who are interested in DC, Jennifer Richwine, who's our executive director for Wake Washington, she has an intake form that students can fill out to sort of be really thoughtful about the kind of support that they would like to have. And so students are able to do that and then to go ahead and set up appointments, not only with her, but she can also direct students to go ahead and contact the people who are most helpful to them. You mentioned this earlier, Andy, but particularly in DC, offices just and even organizations aren't running on an academic calendar. And so they are posting those jobs when they have the need. And so students sort of need to position themselves so that they can be ready when it's posted or even before.
Yeah, the thing about Washington that's interesting is that there's working on the Hill, and then there's all these other really service providers all around, whether it be technology or
Certainly.
lobbyists or think tanks and advocacy groups. And we just have a great network of people throughout that area, both if you come to our office with some of our coaches, but as well as with Jennifer. So if your students think about DC, has an interest, stop on by, definitely fill out that career interest form. And I'll just sort of wrap by saying, if you haven't had a chance and you're online and you see that there's been a lot of things that are included in the chat, one of our key leaders on our team is Patrick Sullivan, and he's been looking at all the questions, answering them as they've come. He's actually provided a lot of resources that you could just click on and open up a web page to have to look at later, or copy and paste that information. We'll also have a follow-up later, I think in an email with a copy of this video, as well as all of the information in the chat. So those resources will be there for you too. So to wrap up, Heidi, do you have some concluding thoughts about advice for parents of seniors who are with us today?
I do. I would say your students are working hard. They really are. And without anyone saying a word to them, they are very aware that there are some 45 to 50 days until graduation. They know. And we want to be there alongside them if they are in the hunt. We have we our oxygen is helping our students and we are there for them. So please send them to us and know that we are we are equipping them to not only be ready for this first job, but also that we will be there with them from the time they walk across that stage until they feel they don't need our support anymore. So we will be with them even after graduation, and we are there for them.
I want to wrap up just by saying, again, thank you. Know that your student has worked really hard to get to Wake Forest while they're Wake Forest. And we're just here and really ready and able to help them however they might need for all their individual journeys and challenges. And we'll be there even long after. You probably do know this, but we have a alumni personal career development center that is known as one of the most innovative and robust. So for all of our alumni, when they're looking at transitions in careers, we'll be there to help your student, up till graduation and well beyond. So know that we're always here for them. The other thing that I will say that is really fun that Heidi and I talk about is there's these things called the dreaded question. And the dreaded question for students, and we get to meet with students a lot, talk about it, and they they moan when they hear us say this. And this one right now, graduation tends to be this. So what are you going to do after graduation? And the reason why is that some students actually really have an answer, and other students are in process, and other students actually like have no idea. And what's hard for a student is if you actually are in process or don't have any idea, if you actually can't give an answer like I have a job at XYZ or even at XYZ and it's an impressive naming company or something that they're actually feeling a little bit insecure about it and really feeling like they failed. So if you actually want to avoid that kind of feeling to happen between you or inside a student where they're trying to put on their best face on because they're still in the job search, of which it doesn't mean they failed, because as we talked about earlier, it's a process to get a job. It is not easy. And that at the end of the day, our students fly. And I think you might know this, like LinkedIn ranked us one of the best schools and best valued schools to be at because of the career trajectory of our alumni and our graduates and our alumni. So it wasn't always only just about like the first job out of graduation. It's actually the whole entire pathway. And that's what we really want is our students to live lives of meaning, purpose, thriving, flourishing. And this one little bump where it's like, I didn't have a job at graduation can feel like a big deal. So I put that out there to say a question you can say to them is, rather than what are you doing exactly or what are your plans for after graduation, you can actually just say, tell me more about like how you enjoyed Wake Forest and what was most exciting about it and what are you most excited about after graduation. And they might literally say, I'm excited just to go take a break and go on vacation with my friends or my family and just celebrate with them. I just put that out there because it will all work out great, but what exactly you're going to do for a job after graduation can be a sort of tough question sometimes for students. So just a thought. Heidi, I'll let you wrap up and close us out.
No, I really appreciate that. One of the things that we ask students to think about is not having a specific answer to the dreaded question, but to have one that's strategic. And so, to the degree that your student feels that they have to have an answer, ask them if they have an answer about what they're interested in. I would say that's a fantastic way for students to go ahead and begin that networking process and to support everything that Andy said. That may give your student just a little bit of margin while they are bridging from this moment into that job that matters to them.
One other thing that I also like to think about, and I know part of it's our wiring and the work that we do, is when we hear students and we find out what their interests are, to the extent it's possible, you may know someone or I may know someone that they might actually benefit being connected to. That's the opportunity to actually really be helpful to say, oh, I know someone who works in that area. Like, give me your contact information and I'll try to follow up with you and talk about it some more. And maybe we can actually introduce you to someone who has worked in this area and might have some information that could be helpful to you. Again, they don't have to have jobs because students start to realize like not every introduction is a job, but actually it's about gathering information and connections that could lead to something good.
We talk a lot about the ABC, a job to get a better job. The other ABC that I love for our seniors to remember is people you already know who can build a bridge to career connections or advice that you may not yet have access to. And so having those conversations about what they're interested in, truly, as Andy was just saying, can be one of those ways that they can go ahead and create the bridge to career opportunities
Nice.
that they do not yet know.
Heidi, it's always good to be online with you. Thank you to Lily and Lily. Thank you to our entire team who put this all together, enabled us to just get on the screen. And we say good night and look forward to seeing you all at graduation. Again, please steer your child our way. We want to help them out. And go Deeks.
Go Deeks!